Trait F, subjective versus objective. Definition. Trait F, subjective versus objective. Subjective is here defined as being emotional, illogical, and self-absorbed. Its opposite, objective, is defined as being fair-minded, reasonable, and logical in attitude. A. Items in the subjective category include those indicators of conflict or excessive emotion that tend to interfere with the ability to think objectively and impartially. Certain items measure characteristics of neurotic sensitivity, and others the ability to judge reality situations accurately. Specific items include tendencies to be overly sensitive, introspective, jealous, suspicious, or self-conscious, as well as a tendency to daydream, hold grudges, be easily embarrassed, or to misinterpret the motives of others. B. In contrast, objective is characterized by the ability to be analytical, impartial, and dispassionate, not preoccupied with introspection or plagued by internal doubts and fears. C. Comment. Subjectivity, when extremely high, may indicate serious emotional disturbance. It seems to suggest that inner feelings tend to create bias and a distortion of the ability to be logical in the appraisal of reality and life situations. It might be said that when an individual scores high in subjective, his emotionalized attitudes are tending to short-circuit his ability to act and think logically and dispassionately. This frequently indicates a preoccupation with self to the point of extreme self-centeredness. Such individuals are often self-conscious and uncomfortable in interpersonal relationships. Marked subjectively may also impair vocational effectiveness. D. At the other extreme, highly objective individuals are frequently found among those who are scientifically oriented. A tendency to be overly analytical may indicate a lowered level of excessive emotion and a denial of feeling that can interfere with the establishment of close bonds with other humans. Explanation of scores. Trait F, subjective versus objective. A. Excellent, darkest colored blue. Objective is characterized by the ability to be analytical, impartial, and dispassionate, not preoccupied with introspection or plagued by internal doubts and fears. An excellent score indicates that you are a person who is more objective and thus tries to be fair-minded, allowing yourself to be guided more by reason and logic than by emotional reaction or outbursts. Generally, you are able to walk around a problem and view it from all angles. Before you decide on a course of action, you are usually in control, which does not cause you undue stress or strain. As an objective person, you feel sufficiently secure so that you can understand and accept points of view other than your own without feeling threatened. To have the capacity to be objective is an excellent quality and helps you create good human relationships. B. Acceptable, medium blue. Being objective is characterized by the ability to be analytical and impartial, not preoccupied with introspection or plagued by internal doubts and fears. You feel sufficiently secure as a person so that you can understand and accept points of view other than your own without feeling threatened. You do have difficulty at times in looking at things objectively, but ordinarily you are able to keep situations in perspective. At times you do make decisions on an emotional basis rather than a logical basis. In most cases, you try to be fair and objective. For the most part, you have learned how to master negative feelings because you tend not to take time to analyze reason behind what others may say or do. It would be good for you to delay making judgments for a day or two so that it will give you a better perspective. C. Improvement desirable, pale blue color. This score reveals some emotional insecurities. It indicates that you are one who usually reacts and makes decisions on an emotional, self-centered basis rather than a rational, objective basis. The reason for this often comes from inferiority feelings. A person who scores high in subjective usually has great difficulty in close interpersonal relationships, and this is the very thing that is needed most in happy, well-adjusted relationships. Subjective people are usually sensitive to criticism because they tend to take themselves too seriously and see all criticisms, however constructive they may be, as attacks on themselves. This can result in cut-off relationships or in arguments. This trait reveals itself in tendencies to be overly sensitive, jealous, suspicious, self-conscious, and easily embarrassed, to hold grudges, and to misinterpret the motives of others. It can lead to a superior attitude inwardly about yourself. Overcoming subjective patterns. 1. See this as a challenge and an opportunity and not as a fault. You can grow, and this is God's great possibility in your life. As you begin to understand the prison that keeps you centered upon yourself, you will begin to see that you have inner freedom from the fear of being open to others. 2. Your mental reception of things is negatively translated. By a choice of your will, you must begin to renew your mental focus. First, looking at the positive experiences that are happening to you rather than focusing and existing in the negative. Read and apply Romans 12:1 through 21, Philippians 1:27, 2:5, and 4:8 through 9, 1 Peter 1:14, and 1 Corinthians 9:27. Go out of your way to make friends. Read and apply some of the popular books in the subject. If you are criticized, practice analyzing the motives of others. Why did they criticize me? What profit can I derive from the criticism? 4. In such matters as jealousy, focus on the facts rather than your own reaction to them. Ask yourself just what happened. What can you do constructively to prevent this from happening again? D. Improvement urgent, white. This score measures emotional interference and indicates someone who makes decisions and usually rests on an emotional, self-centered basis rather than a rational, objective one. As a subjective person, you center events and interpersonal transactions around yourself. Very often, this stems from inferiority feelings and, therefore, becomes part of a self-centered syndrome. Subjectivity can become a defensive reaction. You probably have great difficulty in close interpersonal relationships, and this is the very thing that is needed most in your life. As a subjective person, you are usually sensitive to criticism because you tend to take yourself too seriously and see all criticisms, however constructed they may be, as attacks on yourself. This is why even suggestions from a friend, coworker, or spouse can often end up in cut-off relationships or in arguments. This tendency comes from a preoccupation with self. Specific items that indicate improvement is urgent include tendencies to be overly sensitive, jealous, suspicious, self-conscious, and easily embarrassed, to hold grudges, and to misinterpret the motives and behaviors of others. There are also inclinations to daydream. A high subjective score seems to suggest that inner feelings tend to create bias and distortion, which interferes with the ability to be logical in the appraisal of reality and life situations. You may be preoccupied with yourself and with your own insecurities. You are likely to be on guard with people and to project or imagine what others are thinking, expecting the worst. Overcoming subjective patterns. 1. See this as a challenge and an opportunity and not as a fault. You can grow, and this is God's great possibility in your life. As you begin to understand the prison that keeps you centered upon yourself, you will begin to see that you can have inner freedom from the fear of being open to others. 2. Do not expect rapid change. Realize that such traits as subjectivity, self-consciousness, and feelings of inferiority cannot be altered in a short time. This has been growing up during most of your preceding life. Look forward, look outward rather than inward, and have no doubt that you desire change. Even though slow, it will be sure to come. 3. Stop competing with the whole human race. Chances are that you are taking time and life too seriously and cannot easily see the humor in things, events, other people, and most of all, your failures and mistakes. When you can look up from your problems and involvements and smile, the change in yourself is likely to be one of being less subjective. Worksheet. Trait F. subjective versus objective. A. Complete the worksheet on your thoughts attached page 9. Bring it to your next meeting with your counselor and discuss it with them. B. Read publication 514 below from the American Institute of Family Relations. Publication number 514, the American Institute of Family Relations. Entitled, Be More Objective. The subjective person, as identified by the Taylor-Johnson temperament analysis, is highly self-centered, sometimes even to the extreme that he interprets many things as relating to himself when there is no real relationship whatsoever. In such cases, subjectivity becomes a menace to good adjustment. If associated with aggressive and critical traits, it produces a personality that feels itself to be superior, is hard to get along with, and is associated with depressive tendencies. It is likely to produce strong attitudes in youth, self-consciousness being higher at the time of life. Subjectivity later decreases in the average person but increases again in the aged. It cannot be eliminated suddenly, but it may be reduced gradually through change of attitudes. To aid in such change, several of the following suggestions may be helpful. 1. Acquire many hobbies, games, and other sources of distraction to which you may turn when the thwartings which every human being experiences from time to time come your way. 2. Cultivate as many social, professional, or recreational activities as possible in which you will make a reasonably good showing, but don't think you have to be superior in everything in order to be successful or happy. Be glad you are above average, or, if you are below average, be glad you were born. We're all below average in some things. 3. Do some reading or take some courses in such subjects as logic or scientific method, statistical method, and laboratory sciences. These help to make you think in more objective ways. Apply what you learn from these courses to your daily life by seeking to escape bias and prejudice. Cultivate open-mindedness for this purpose, but beware of easy credibility. Refuse to accept anything as a fact unless there is adequate evidence to support it. When a statement seems to conflict with known scientific principles, insist on remaining skeptical until a very strong case is made, as for instance, with reference to astrology, superstition, and unsupported gossip. 4. Go out of your way to make friends. Read and apply some of the popular books on this subject. 5. Practice the habit of perceiving. If you walk into a room or join a group of people, don't think, I wonder what they think of me. Instead, set yourself to studying their individual peculiarities. Such things as dress, speech, mannerisms, race, and constitutional differences. Note particularly any evidence of self-conscious or shyness in them. 6. If you are criticized, practice analyzing the motives of others. Ask yourself, why did he criticize me? Apply what you can make of it, and ask yourself, what profit can I derive from that criticism? Study human nature. 7. In such matters as jealousy, focus on the facts rather than on your own reactions to them. Just what happened? What can you do constructively to prevent its happening again? Can you put something better in its place? 8. There is reason to believe that subjectivity, like nervousness, depression, and impulsiveness, is something increased by various bodily ills or deficiencies. Take stock of yourself from this point of view. Seek to live the hygienic life, attend to your nutrition, and avoid either overload or underload in your work. 9. The increase of subjectivity with old age may be partly due to deficiencies of sex hormones. In such a case, make up the deficiency under medical supervision by taking hormone treatments regularly. 10. Don't expect rapid change. Realize that such traits as subjectivity, self-consciousness, and feelings of inferiority cannot be altered in a short time. They have been growing up during most of your preceding life. Look outward rather than inward and have no doubt that the desired change, even though slow, may be sure to come. 11. Stop competing with the whole human race. Chances are that you are taking life too seriously and cannot easily see the humor in things, events, other people, and most of all, your own mistakes. When you can look up from your problems and involvements and smile, the change in yourself is likely to be one of being less subjective. You can increase your own objectivity.